My review of Obduction will not be as glowing as some might anticipate it to be. I do have some qualms about certain things about the game, the gameplay, the world building, and others, especially when comparing it, which a lot of people would obviously do, to the old Myst games. Certainly, Obduction is competently made, has good looking graphics, sound design was great, the music, and certainly the performance was smooth. Though the load times during some of the world swapping did get annoying, especially when the world swapping was based around a major puzzle. That got annoying pretty fast. But otherwise, technically, it was very competently made. The gameplay mechanics centered around puzzles, and the puzzles certainly made sense. They were not too difficult or too easy, and they fit into the worlds that they designed instead of just being kind of thrust in there and making no sense to why that puzzle or why that thing would be in the world. It was very brilliantly integrated with not only the world itself, each of the worlds themselves, but also the narrative that was being constructed around what was going on in the world, essentially an impending war. When it came to like the art style, it was definitely unique. But to me, and my preference, it was a bit too colorful to the point of looking like children's drawings. I much prefer the industrial, mechanical, rusted style of art that the Myst and Ribbon games had in comparison to what they have in Obduction. The art style was a qualm with me. It looked, as I said, a little too colorful, a little too to the point of childishness, and it looked like kind of like a Vincent van Gogh painting or an Edvard Munch painting, as opposed to like a Rembrandt that Myst was, if I was to use like classical artists as examples. In terms of the game in its totality, it was derivative only of Myst, but not of much of anything else, hence why my pop references were very limited in this regard. I could only really, when I'm playing the game, Obduction, and thinking about how the game is unfolding beneath me, I'm comparing it to Myst, but literally I wasn't comparing it to anything else. So it's unique in that regards, and they only basically borrowed upon themselves from the past. Honestly, though, as I was going through and getting towards the end of it, all the lore, all the world building that they'd done, I did have this hollow feeling of the worlds just having a limited backstory. There was a lot of unexplained rationale for the existence of the acorns, which were never those acorns that displaced chunks of other worlds into this centralized world. That was never really explained, nor was why they were displacing. The plan at the end was to displace all of those displaced chunks into yet another world that seemed to be an uninhabited paradise world. This was all like not explained at all. Like the backstory was not there. There was only the backstory about the different races of creatures that were displaced, that were also in the same predicament that the humans in Hunrath were. And that was okay. It's always okay to leave a bit of mystery to things, but there was too much mystery left over in the end. And it felt almost like they were going to then have a second game where they would start to explain more of what's going on. Why is there these acorns displacing segments of other worlds into a centralized world? Like, what is the point? Is it like some sort of experiment, like an M. Night Shyamalan experiment going on? None of that is explained whatsoever, which is okay, but you'd have to have at least a follow-up to some of it, reveal some of the mystery later. And there's no indication that there is going to be a sequel to Obduction. It's now been 6 years. There's no hint of it. There's a hint of another game from Cyan, but there's very, very limited information about that, even if it's going to be connected to Obduction at all, or if it's going to be a new IP. So all in all, though, I did have a fair bit of fun. It's a quick game, so even if through all these qualms, I get through it quick and I don't feel massively frustrated by them. But it is not a game I would rate that highly. It's like a good weekend rental type game. For people who like puzzle adventures in unique types of worlds, and especially the ones that don't like a lot of talking. For the 3 actors that were in the game, they did fantastic jobs. The person who played CW, I think, is one of the Miller brothers, and and the lady who played Carolyn and the mayor, Carl, all they did fantastic jobs acting and providing deep characterizations with the limited amount of time they had, because most of it in this game you spend alone working with puzzles in desolate worlds, unpopulated worlds. So you're just looking at the nature and the puzzles. But that's okay. That's this style of game, and I knew going into that. And that's how Myst was. That's how the Myst games were too. And I fell in love with them. When you did get to interact with someone in the Myst games, it was a real big treat, because you knew some great dialogue and great acting was going to occur, and some great revealing of mysteries was about to happen. That's not quite so much an Obduction, but it's definitely in the spirit of it. So if someone's looking for quantitative here, quantitative review, ranking of it, of Obduction, giving an evaluation, I would have to say, like, it's a game I would give in the mid 70s%, like 75%, B-, C+ range. All the qualms I mentioned bring it down, but you know, it is like a weekend rental or a purchase on Steam at a like under $20 purchase price. So thanks very much for listening to my review of Obduction from Cyan, and look forward to the next game I give a playthrough on in Acute Obtuse Reflex Gaming. Thank you.